Good day to all of you. I warmly welcome you to ITE 1712 Web Design course. This is the second lecture of this series. In the previous lecture, we learned about the history of the internet. Today, we are going to get an introduction to World Wide Web and web development. My name is Dr. Gayashan Amarasinghe, and I'll be presenting this lecture today. So this is the color coding that you have already been introduced in the previous lecture. We will be using the same color coding throughout this series. So please take a moment to make yourself familiar with this. Okay, so the objectives of today's lecture are twofold. First one is after completing this lecture, you should be able to explain how a web application is composed, or what we call as the anatomy of a web application. You should be able to explain the anatomy of the web application. The next objective is you should be able to develop a simple web page using HTML and CSS. There are two activities in this lecture that you have to complete as well, right? So I hope these objectives are achieved after you have watched this lecture. Before we actually learn about the anatomy of a web application, let's get ourselves familiarized with some of the terminology that we'll be using in this course. First one is the browser, or commonly known as the web browser, which is a tool that you use to access web applications or web pages. If you browse YouTube on a computer, you will be using a web browser. So examples of such web browsers are Google Chrome, Firefox, Microsoft Edge, or it was previously known as Microsoft Internet Explorer. Right? So these are some of the web browsers that we are using in our day-to-day lives. The second word or the second term that we are going to introduce is client server or client server architecture. This is an architecture that applies to most of the web applications that you see or that you use. Client in this case is an application running on a user's device or your own device. A server is a computer that belongs to an application developer. For example, Facebook has lots of servers that are running their Facebook application. The client connects to a server over a network, for example, over the internet. Internet is a network, if you remember from last week, right? To access the content or applications available on the server. This is the basic architecture behind many web applications that you see every day. Next term is protocol. Protocol is a standard or an accepted procedure. In web design, we are interested in protocols that are used to send messages from one device to another. Right? Protocols ensure that there is a standard or agreed upon way for devices to send or receive messages. So this is what we are interested in when we developing web applications. Clients and servers will be sending and receiving messages. And these protocols make sure that the messages are understood by the senders and receivers both. Next word is API, which stands for Application Programming Interface. It's a software-based endpoint that allows two applications to talk to each other. As the next term, we are going to look at UI and UX. UI stands for user interface, which is the interface a user interacts with an application. UX or user experience is a much broader term. It involves looking not only at the interface, but the overall experience a user will get from an application. So this is user experience, right? So we will be using the terms UI and UX, especially when we are designing web pages. The next term that we are going to look at is frameworks. Frameworks are software solutions that facilitate application development. They allow a developer to use the functionalities of these frameworks to build custom applications. They'll be using the functionalities available in the frameworks instead of developing all of it by themselves. They'll be reusing some of the functionalities from these frameworks and build new or custom applications for users. I believe this is another term that you might have heard. Full stack or full stack developers. Full stack development is developing an application from the user interface or the client side code up until the back-end server-side application. In other words, this is the complete platform. A full stack developer can develop both client and server-side software. So if you are going to become a full stack developer, then you should know about client-side software, you should know about server-side software and how to connect these as well. So you should be knowledgeable of the whole platform. Next is a term that as developers, we are not very fond of. Bugs. Bugs are not animals in the bug, as in bugs in animals world, like small insects. Here, bugs are issues or mistakes that are present in a program or a software. As developers, it is our duty to find and fix these bugs to make sure they don't affect the application's behavior. Next term is wireframe. Wireframe is the structure or the blueprint of an application. It provides a visual guideline that represents the skeletal framework of a website. So this is basically the structure of the framework. So this wireframe is something that we develop before we actually go into coding or developing even HTML pages. We build the wireframe first using some sort of a drawing tool to have a look at or come up with ideas on how to design the web page itself. Okay, so these are some of the terminologies. I'm sure there will be other terminologies that we will be, seeing throughout this course, and we will be learning about those terminology as and when we see them. Web apps are made up of two separate running computer programs, a server and a client. If you remember, I talked about the client-server architecture before. So this is the most prominent architecture in web applications. So both of these computer programs, the web client and the web server, are important, and the main distinction is whose machine they run on. The server runs on a machine controlled by you, the web app creator, and the client runs on a machine controlled by the user of the web application. So this could be their laptop, desktop computer, or their mobile phone. It could be a program running in a web browser or a native application running directly on their computer. So it could be the client could be a web browser, or it could be a native application as well. However, every web application communicates via request and a response. These are messages shared back and forth between the server and the client. The client sends a request asking for information, and the server sends back a response after doing some processing on that request. So the client may be asking, what is today's day? So the server will look at today's day and respond with the day itself. The reason that web clients and web servers know how to understand these messages that they send back and forth between each other is because they all are written in the same way. This is where protocols come in. So the request and response messages are just text. But how do the client and the server know how to speak the same language? The problem is solved by the HTTP standard, or Hypertext Transfer Protocol. So this is a protocol that is, or standard that is a set of rules for how the messages are allowed to be structured. Every web browser and web server is then written so that it always follows these rules. So whatever the rules that the HTTP standard sets, the web browsers and web servers need to follow those in order to understand each other. So the request is sent by a web browser or a client to the web server over the network. The server processes the request and prepares a response, and the response is sent by a web server over the network again to the client who sent the request. So in this case, the network could be the internet, or it could be a local network that connects two computers as well, right? But if it is a web application, it is the network is the internet. So what is a web server then? Web server has several functionalities. First, it provides HTML or hypertext markup language pages to web browsers. We call this act as serving. That is why these are called servers. If the application requires, a web server can provide other types of documents as well, not only HTML pages. And a web server may also process information provided by a user as well. Based on the supplied information, server may provide an appropriate response. We call this as dynamic data. So that means depending on the request, server may provide an appropriate response, which is, which can change based on the request itself. Okay, so now that we have learned about the anatomy of a web application, here's a reading activity for you. So with this activity, you can become familiar with what we discussed here. Please complete this task before we move to the topic of web development. Now we are going to look at how we can create a web page. This is going to be a very simple web page. What we want to learn here are the basics so that we can build much more complex web pages later. In order to understand web development, you need to understand three aspects of a web page. The structure of a web page defines how the content are organized. This is done using a markup language like HTML or hypertext markup language. Next aspect is the style of the web page. This is implemented using CSS, cascading style sheets, which is a language used for describing how a document is presented to the user. Next, as the final aspect, we are considering about controlling the behavior of a web page, which is done using a programming language such as JavaScript or TypeScript. Such a language can control the behavior of a web page by executing the program code from the client side with the help of the server as well. So we have talked about these markup languages multiple times. So let's briefly talk about them here. So markup languages use tags to define the elements of a document, which can be used for formatting and structuring text. Some examples of these markup languages are HTML, XML, or Markdown. HTML or hypertext markup language is used for structuring your web page, which is a collection of text. We will talk about this in detail in a later lecture. So this is an HTML document. You can see as an example, this is how a HTML document looks like. We use this HTML or hypertext markup language to help us to organize our web pages or the structure of the web page. So let's look at an example of a web page that displays a text called Hello World. So in this web page, you can see there are multiple strings of text. We call these HTML elements. So the first step of a HTML document is to declare or to tell the web browser which version of HTML we are using. This is done through what we call as a doc type declaration. It helps the browser to read the information in this HTML page. To be specific, here we are saying that this HTML page follows the HTML5 standard. So this is how you would say that we are following the HTML5 standard. Next step is to build the HTML document. These things are called HTML elements or HTML tags. First tag in an HTML document is a HTML tag. If you open a tag like this using these angle brackets, then you have to close that tag as well using a slash. So you can see that here there's a HTML, some information here, and then another angle bracket, and then at the end you close this tag using an angle bracket, a slash, and the name of the tag itself and a closing angle bracket. So this is the structure that HTML follows. If you open a tag, then you have to close the tag as well. Between the opened and closed tags, you can place content. As you can see here, there are some content that have been placed here. Another important feature of HTML is present in this tag. The information that you put here are called HTML attributes. Here we are saying that lang equals en. This is saying language of this page is English. So this helps the web browsers and other interested applications to use that information when they are processing this web page. After the HTML tags, you can insert any text including other tags effectively. Given that tags are opened and closed properly. If you don't do that, then HTML will not be able to render those tags appropriately. It will appear just as a text or an error. Okay, so now that we have seen some of these HTML tags, you can see that there are tags like title, which says hello. There's a body, which has another text saying hello world. Now that you have seen how a HTML page looks like in terms of text, let's see how it looks like in a web browser. This is an HTML page that I have created based on the web page or the HTML page that we saw in the previous example. Let me open that in a web browser. Now you can see how it looks like in a web browser. So I opened it using the Firefox web browser. So this is how it looks like. Here you can see there's a title called hello, and then in the body it says hello world. Let me open the source of this page and see how it looks like. Here you can see the source of the page is same as what we saw before in the example. You have the doc type declaration, you have the HTML tags, and within those tags you have the other tags and the text. Right? You can see the title, you can see the body and head. So this is how it looks like in a web browser. Now that you have seen how it looks like in a web browser, if you want to look at the way this HTML page is structured, it is built in a tree-like structure. Let's see how this looks like in this structure. We call this document object model or DOM model. Here's how the DOM for this web page looks like. In this tree-like structure, you can see on the right-hand side, HTML element stays at the parent. You can see that the doc type declaration is not part of the DOM. That is because it is a declaration that is for the web browser to use to identify that this is a HTML5 page, right? So because of that, that is not part of the document object model. And here the parent is the HTML tag, like in the page itself. This parent HTML element has two children, head and body. And head has another child, title, which has the child hello, which is a text. And similarly, for the body element has hello world text as a child. This DOM structure is useful when you go into change the behavior of the web page using some programming languages. Here are some of the common HTML tags that you can use. You will learn about these HTML tags in coming weeks. They provide various functionalities that you can use in complex web applications. Now that you have the structure, next step is to add some style to this web page. You can do this using CSS or cascading style sheets. This is what this would look like. A bit of a complex CSS would look like this. But in our web page, let's see how it would look like when we add some styling into the page itself. Here is the same HTML page that we discussed previously, but now that I have added some style here. You can see that within the head element, I have added another HTML tag known as style. This style HTML tag has some text inside it called body, font size, and some values. So when you look at it, if I say that this is the styling of the page, then you can get an idea. Maybe I'm trying to change the font size of the body or the text inside this body, right? So that is exactly what I'm trying to do here. This style is applied to this body tag that you put here, and I'm trying to change the font size to 180 pixels. That is what PX stands for. So let's look at how it looks like in a web browser. Now that you have seen the structure of the web page and how you can apply styles using cascading style sheets, let's see how it looks like in an actual web page. To do this, I have created the same HTML page with style using an text editor and saved it as an HTML file. Let me open it using the web browser. As you can see here, now the size of the text itself has increased because we set it to 180 pixels. Let me see the source as well. Now you can see that just like previous example, this is how it looks like. So the doc tag declaration is there and you have the HTML tags, but in addition to previous example, you have the styling applied here. And with this, it looks like this. Let me open the normal page again without any styling and you can see the difference. This one has very small letters and this one has large letters. So this is the difference of adding style to an HTML web page. Okay, so that is how it would look like when you add styling using CSS to a web page. There are many common CSS properties that you can add to a web page. We'll be discussing about these later in this lecture series. These are some of such CSS properties that you can use. You can change the color, you can change the alignment of text, width, height, and you can add properties to the font. You can add padding, margin, borders. You can do various things to make it look like something else. So you can change the style of the web page using these CSS properties. Okay, so now that you have styled the web page, next step is to change the behavior of the web page. You can do that using a programming language like JavaScript or TypeScript. We are not going to talk about this today, but it will be covered in a later lecture. So these programming languages can help to develop very complex web applications. Okay, so as a recap, we talked about the anatomy of a web application, such as the client-server model and the HTTP protocol. And then we looked at designing a simple web page. In there, we looked at HTML, we looked at CSS, and then we had a look at some examples as well. Right? So with this information, I believe now you can create a simple web page about yourself. This will be the first assignment of this course. So as the assignment, develop a simple about me web page about yourselves using the HTML and CSS knowledge that you have gained, and also the knowledge that you have gained from the first reading activity. Hope you learned something useful today, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.